But lovely to be speaking with you both. Obviously, we're here to talk about Cold Wallet. I guess, my first question, Cutter, cryptocurrency has been the subject of plenty of documentaries, but it's not really made its way into the world of fiction yet. What was it about, this whole concept and idea that inspired you to stick it in a home invasion story?
Well, yeah, I guess it's like crypto's invaded all of our homes at some level. It is like, I think it ultimately comes down to it's an interesting example of where our culture is going. Um, and it's just full of like darkly comedic and then also just very dark, like stories and characters. But it's certainly got a sense of humor. And so I think we were trying to sort of tap into both of those things that drew me to it, which is like it's this social story of wealth inequality. It's also this social story of like dreams and following and chasing dreams, only to have them shattered. But I think, yeah, I think it was a ripe place in terms of like the kind of mythology that is growing on places like Reddit and YouTube and Twitter and something that like largely a culture that largely grew out of message boards. So yeah, that's what brought me to it.
And Josh, I guess, for most people, you're probably, best known as being Big Head in Silicon Valley. He wasn't the smartest, bless him. He was kind of very much the butt of the jokes. But here as Charles, he's this like manipulator. He's trying to turn, these three desperate people against one another. That must have been a lot of fun to kind of, play around with the audience expectations of what kind of character you might have been playing.
Fun is definitely the right word for it. Yeah, I mean it's always so exciting to get to do something a little different, and so grateful to Cutter for thinking I could be up to the task. Yeah, super fun to get to be a baddie and do some things that are, you know, pretty much opposite from Big Head, other than being in the tech world. Um, yeah, and um, it was just it was really about researching some of these real life figures and trying to figure out what makes them tick. People like Martin Shkreli, the Pharma Bro guy, or Elizabeth Holmes, or the people behind the Quadriga scandal. All of these characters are sort of, they make you think that they're the do-gooder, make the world a better place tech CEO type, and then what they really are is just crooks and snake oil salesmen. And figuring out what those people are like is yeah, I mean, getting into that was fun. I'm gonna be honest, it was totally fun.
I think the story is fascinating and it would work no matter what time of year it was set, but the story is set at Christmas. What do you both think that setting adds to the piece?
Well, I think it's a time of year where people are always looking for a way to make an extra buck, and if you have kids or family, you're maybe a little bit more desperate, especially if times are tough. So I think it added that sort of level of conflict and more. It just raised the stakes a little bit for the character. He had to come through on Christmas.
And yourself, Josh?
Yeah, I think there is this kind of like, it's the magical time of year where anything's possible, and you do have this, kind of like this spark of hope and light in the darkness of winter. And then for that spark of hope and light to then be immediately extinguished because of, this like Grinch-like character, it is like it just makes you angry. You can understand like this guy taking advantage of these people who are just trying to like get a leg up in life and preying on their hopes and dreams at specifically at Christmas is just kind of like as kind of dark as it gets, it's at least why I really feel for the characters.
Much of the story takes place in this massive, massive house, and yet, despite this grandiose setting, the film feels very claustrophobic. How was it kind of, working in that environment? How did that help you as an actor, Josh? And what was it about, this location and kind of making it as, smaller cutter that appealed to you?
Well, I mean, it's kind of thematically makes it adds to the film in the sense of it's a Gilded Age mansion in this like story of kind of wealth inequality and like unregulated, gain and greed and so I think uh visually it was doing that for the story. I think we always treated the house like a big gigantic ship, and that they were all somehow trapped at sea during a storm, was kind of like the inspiration for it. So I think it was about making the house feel big and sort of spooky, but then also getting us into these kind of corridors that are like, the corridors on an old ship.
Yeah, the house really became like an additional character in the movie because I love what Cutter did with you hear these like creaks and you hear the ice sort of crackling in the dead of winter, and you do feel like there's no escape. We're all here together. And it was the dead of winter in Western Massachusetts, so we were all a little bit huddled together. A lot of people were staying together, and all the cast was staying together in this kind of tiny little back house. And the town of Lenox is sort of a summer place, so there's not a lot going on. So we were all kind of like huddled by the fires together, and you do feel that like closeness, that claustrophobia of winter. It was fun for us, but for the characters, it's kind of harrowing. But yeah, it was just like it kind of just felt right.
As entertaining as Cold Wallet is, it does also, have a message behind it. There is a reading where you just sit back and enjoy, this sort of like home invasion, almost like demented, grown-up Home Alone sort of story. But there is more going on if you dig beneath the surface. What do you both hope that the audience, get out of watching this film? What do you hope that they take away?
Well, I think number one, that we've made an entertaining and fun movie that's just a great thrill ride. I think that's the first and most important thing to me. But I think second is just maybe it makes you think a little bit about what unregulated, greed can look like, and what how even these things that appear to be sort of a thing that helps the little guy, that they can be something that is like crypto, that's like taken advantage by the biggest and most powerful banks and Wall Street, tycoons. So I think for me, America's greatest problem is inequality, and maybe in the world, that's our biggest problem, and so maybe it makes you think a little bit about that.
Yeah, and I think maybe there's a little bit of a larger message about tech. I thought a lot about, when we talked about the character of Charles Hagel, Cutter would say a wolf in sheep's clothing. And I think it's such a good metaphor for, you know, tech, big tech as it exists. We all sort of thought, oh, look at these nerds in their hoodies who are motivated only by altruism and, you know, helping us all connect in the environment and this kind of stuff. And then you take a closer look, and a lot of what's gone on behind the scenes is maybe not so rose colored. So, just examining who these people are who we put so much faith and stock and give all of our secrets to and all of our passwords and say, thanks for making our life more convenient.
It's a great film, and now that it's coming out into the world, what are you both working on next? Is there any projects that either one of you are allowed to discuss?
I'm working on a UFO movie down in South America. That's my next
Nice.
thing.
And I think I have to plead the fifth, at least for now, but hopefully something to report soon.
Another tech billionaire maybe.
Listen, I'd like to become a tech billionaire, so hopefully that.
Nice. Well, I look forward to whatever project it is when it is revealed. And as somebody who's deathly afraid of UFOs, I'd say I was going to say aliens, but there's literally an aliens box set behind me. Not those aliens. Those aliens I think I'd be fine with, but the UFO aliens, I'm very intrigued to see that one, Cutter. So I will be after you for that one. But thank you
Did
both
you,
so
did
much
you
for your
see that?
time.
Do we meet at Fright Fest
We did
in
meet at
London?
Fright Fest,
Yeah,
yes, but it was about 1 a.m. on the last day. So, and it was
that's when I
dark
meet
and
my
it was
favorite
loud.
people. So that's great. Yeah.
So you are forgiven for that. But it's been great talking to you both. It's a great little film. I watched it again this morning and it plays, just as well on a rewatch. So yeah, I look forward to the film, getting it out and finding its audience. And I wish you both the best of luck.
Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much. Thanks for staying up late. Get some sleep.
I have a 6-year-old. I don't know what sleep is.